This has been posted on the Reddit. People are excited. Everyone wants in. My AI skeptic friends are all nuts. Okay, so I'm going to first give a brief defense of what I think, just so everybody understands the page I'm on, because I think a lot of people think I'm like heavily anti-AI. It's not that I'm anti-AI. I just think the code it produces is horseshit. That's it. I'm not trying to be mean. It's just really bad at coding. And that's okay. It can generate it super fast. So it's like if I don't want to do something, I can explain what I wanted to do. And lately I've been doing something where I first use the ask agent and I get it to explain to me exactly the steps it would take, correct it along the way, and then get the agent to do the task. So I've been cursoring it up just to give it a try. So yeah, I'm not an anti-AI guy. I'm an anti-hype train AI guy by hype bros who own companies. Okay, so when the Replit CEO says that all engineering positions will be gone in somewhere between 6 to 18 months, that was just a couple months ago, I go, hey, that's stupid. You know why? Because my mom doesn't know what a client or a server is, and she's about as computer literate as most people attempting to create these things right now. That doesn't mean she has no idea what she's doing. She's going to create a site that will inevitably get hacked, and everything that happens will get absolutely destroyed. This is like a free-range, crazy idea that you don't need someone who understands things, right? And so I'm on the what I would consider the reasonable skeptic side, which is AI is a fancy autocomplete, which will make writing code easier, but it does not make writing code free. Every line of code is liability. And when you have something that produces a lot of lines of code, you have produced liability. You have not produced a strategic moat. And just because you can replace it fast does not simply make it for free, right? It just reduces a bit of the liability of code. But at the end of the day, it's still liability. That is my thought process, and it's been my thought process for a long time. I don't think it's going to take over the universe to the point where no one does anything. I think there does come a point at someday when all of our hardware gets 1,000x faster, batteries last for 5,000 years, quantum computers are taking Bitcoin out behind the barn and shooting all the wallets. You know, like when that day happens, sure, yeah, you got him, okay? But I don't know when that day is going to happen. A heartfelt provocation about AI-assisted programming. Tech execs are mandating LLM adoption. That's a bad strategy, but I get where they're coming from. Some of the smartest people I know share a bone-deep belief that AI is a fad, the next iteration of NFT mania. I've been reluctant to push back on them because, well, they're smarter than me. Don't do that. Don't do that. One of the biggest mistakes I made at Netflix is not pushing it back against people early on in my career because I perceive them as being smarter. The thing is that people that are smart does not mean that they have all answers to everything. They have opinions on most things, just like everybody else. They're not anything special. They're not anything fancy. It's the exact same crap over and over again. But their arguments are unserious and worth confronting. Extraordinarily talented people are doing work that LLMs already do better out of spite. It's true. You know what I do? And I'm willing to change. I've said I'm willing to change. I am going to get Super Maven. You know why? You know why I'm going to get Super Maven? Very, very simple. Main.go, this right here. Do you see what that is? That's a log statement. TJ got it. TJ's finally convinced me. Stop typing log statements. It's true. 90% of the time, you don't need log statements. It's stupid. It's absolutely dumb, and he's right. I should quit typing it. But I also want to show you one other thing that I think is worth looking at. Here's a picture I took from Cursor. I asked it to make me a nice login. It's not Cursor's fault. Again, this is what LLMs do the best. I asked, is the session data secure? Meaning that if I knew someone's username and ID, could I spoof it by adding it to my session? In other words, can we sign the data / create some sort of DWAT to prevent a user spoofing? That's a very good security concern. Currently, the session data is not cryptographically secure against tampering. Remember, I asked it to produce a site that I was going to have people on, and this is what it came up with, which is just being like, bro, tell me your user ID. What is it? If you just tell me your user ID, I believe you, man. I believe you. And that's what it did. It was crazy. It was actually crazy. All progress on LLMs could halt today. And LLMs would remain the second most important thing to happen over the course of my career. I'd have to think about that as second most important thing to happen over my career. I also wonder what the first most important thing to happen over his career. Okay, anyways, important. I'm discussing only the implications of LLMs for software development. For art, music, and writing, question mark, I've got nothing. I'm inclined to believe that the skeptics in those fields. I just don't believe them about mine. Okay, that's fair. I think that you should, if you're not really in tune with the specific field, I think it's really easy to read anything and agree with it, right? Bona fides. I've been shipping software since the mid-1990s. I started out in boxed, shrink-wrapped C code, survived an ill-advised Alexandrus C++ phase, lots of Ruby and Python tooling, some kernel work, a lot of server-side C, Go, and Rust. However you define serious developer, I qualify, even if only on one of your lower tiers. Okay, good. Okay, the bona fides, they feel good. They sound right. I mean, everything sounds right until you started going towards that whole, like, Rust side of things. Oh, my gosh. I didn't realize we're free in here. Level setting. First, we need to get on the same page. If you were trying and failing to use an LLM for code 6 months ago, you're not doing what most serious LLM-assisted coders are doing. Okay. What are serious ones? Okay, what are serious ones? People coding with LLMs today use agents. Agents get to poke around your code base on their own. They author files directly. They run tools. They compile code, run tests, and iterate on the results. They also pull in arbitrary code from the tree or from other trees online into their context windows. I assume the tree means code base, and other trees means other people's code base? The tree of life, yes. Run standard Unix tools to navigate the tree and extract information. Interact with Git. I tried to get Devin to push to master for hours. Run existing tooling like linters, formatters, and model checkers, and make essentially arbitrary tool calls that you set up through MCP. I do want to play around a little bit with MCP. I think that could be a lot of fun, having effectively some sort of driven agent string interpolation that I can set up where and when to make these calls, grab context, and do something cool with. I mean, there could be something that's pretty exciting there as far as prompt crafting, but I'm not exactly sure if it's going to be that amazing. Yeah, MCP is cool and overhyped / overcomplicated. Yeah. The code is an agent that actually does stuff. With code is not itself AI. This should assure you it's a surprisingly simple systems code, wired to ground truth about programming in the same way a makefile is. You could write an effective coding agent in a weekend. Its strengths would have more to do with how you think about and structure builds and linting and test harnesses than how advanced O3 or Sonnet have become. Is that true? Isn't part of the reason why agents are at least trending towards something that is useful is that these models are getting better enough? Isn't that part of the reason? Because you still at the end of the day have to ask the model, okay, now, let's reason through these things. Okay, here's the step-by-step process. Okay, I need to delete this file. What's the command? Let's generate the command. Isn't that part of, or I need to do something. What's the thing I need to do? Okay, and also give me the Unix command. Hey, I want to execute this command. Can you please execute this command? Right, isn't that part of the whole thing? Right? Correct. Model improvements are the most of the agent improvements. I would assume that's where a huge percentage of the agent improvements come in. Also, I do have a quick question. Is it really true that you can just write a world-class effective agent over a weekend? I could definitely cobble together some Go code and some crap and make an agent, but I don't know if it would be that great. I'm sure I could get something that could walk around world class. Well, I have to ask, what's the point of a lot of these tools? Doing it right now? Well, it's easy, really. So it's easy to get back code and to do, say, merge stuff, to be able to merge code in, to be able to allow you to accept things in chunks, integrate with various editors, right? I assume you'd use some sort of Git diffing to be able to make sure that you can do proper reasoning and all that. MCP, yes. I thought that was one of the, let's ask Dask on the stand-up today. We should ask Dax on the stand-up today. In fact, TJ, that might be actually a more exciting stand-up anyways, is just talking about open code and all that. Dax, I know I said Dask. Anyways, it's just, I understand that you can build an agent pretty quickly. It's just like building a extremely useful agent that really integrates with everything. I'm not really sure if that's true to the extent you're saying. Dask. I know I said Dask. Shut up. If you're making a request on ChatGPT page and then pasting the result broken code into your editor, you're not doing what AI boosters are doing. No wonder you're talking past each other. By the way, I feel like I've been saying this for so long. In fact, one of my biggest gripes about early AI was that the integration of it all was so painful that it wasn't even worth using in my opinion. I don't want to have to scrape all the code I think is useful, paste it and format it into some sort of external editor, be able to wait for the response, be able to parse through all the yapping that it does, be able to find the code that I needed to find, and then to take that code, copy and paste it, and figure out where in my editor I need it to be upgraded. Like, I hated that process. I thought that process was genuinely broken. And so what he's saying is absolutely true. If you think that that's the end all of models is just using ChatGPT, I do agree with him. That is a poor understanding of what makes, or the argument of why AI is so great. I would definitely be on that team. Let's see. Okay, here we go. The positive case. Fun, important. Tedious, important. Tedious, pointless. Fun, pointless. Okay, this is my favorite one. I'm a heavy IV user. Okay, I just want you to know that right now. Heavy IV user. Dude, I'm on that drip. All right, LLMs can write a large fraction of all the tedious code you'll ever need. And most code on most projects is tedious. I don't find most code on most projects to be tedious. At least a lot of the ones I've been writing have been very, very, very fantastic. Even my time at Netflix, a lot of it was not tedious. It was it was really, really engaging and exciting code. That took a lot of thought to come up with the right architecture to be able to insert new things. I'm not too sure about this. LLMs can, at least in my experience. Now, granted, I didn't do what most people did, so my opinion about this can be various different. I would understand that if you're doing a bunch of just marketing and integration stuff, yeah, there's a lot of tedium, very little practicality. So I'm on that team. LLMs drastically reduce the number of things you'll ever need to Google, which is also true, right? Like my little chess game where we can log in and we can ban people, and we have Twitch logins and all that stuff. I literally just asked, hey, make a Twitch login. Boom, got a Twitch login, right? Like I think that's the tedium. For me, that's the tedium stuff that I never want to have to think about, because I used to hand roll my own OAuth / my open, back and then it was like OpenID from Google. I think Google switched from OpenID into whatever they have now. And so it's just like this really annoying world where you had to write all your own like little, okay, I got to have my state token. I got to have my redirect URL. Okay, do this. Okay, now come back. Okay, dude, I hated that stuff. Anyways, think of anything you wanted to build but didn't. You tried to home in on some first steps, but let's see, if you've been in the limerent phase of a new programming language, you'd have started writing, but you weren't, so you put it off for a day, a year, a whole career. I don't know. I guess I do different side projects. I don't know. This isn't really, like, that's never been something that stopped me from a side project. I can feel my blood pressure rising thinking of all the bookkeeping and Googling and dependency drama of a new project. Really? Common struggle for non-prime people. But like, aren't you... Like right now, I mean, isn't that part of the fun though? What I mean by that is like, so I want to take OpenCode. It's a CLI tool that I want to like really take to the max at some point in the future. I know they're doing a big new release, and so I want to play around with it. I want to kind of create like my ideal tmux workflow. And it's like, you know what I've never done? I've never created a Go program where I have the Go program persist and run in memory. And then I have a second one that launches up, that communicates with it, that I'm able to create or like start up and bring down tmux windows that I have a long-running process in. Like, that's just not something I've ever done. I've played a lot around with standard in, standard out, and build a bunch of programs. Like, we built the Doom to be able to take the Doom standard in, standard out, pipe it through a program, and send it down to a bunch of browsers. Like, I've never done something where I'm actually using a bunch of different subprocesses that I created to be able to do these hooking up to terminal windows and all that. And to me, that seems like that's actually a pretty exciting, pretty fun part of it all. Like, the drama of learning, it feels like the most exciting part of a project. So if you mean by non-prime people, you mean people that just, I guess, what is the motivation for building something? Are you building something because you want to like sell it or to create something or to escape or to, whatever that is? Or are you building something because you're building it for yourself for the love of building it? right? Those are two different things, and I understand they have two very different motivation and outcomes. Like if I were to be building something in which I'm trying to sell, there's a bit of pressure, some high speed to it, like problems I have to solve and go fast, and that's like a very different feel, and that often also involves a bunch of really dumb, stupid, annoying work, such as I better get a login, hey, I better do this, hey, I better do that, I gotta set up a database, how's my security, am I gonna get hacked, am I gonna get my whole life stolen, right? And like, so I understand some of that part that makes it really annoying, but most of the tools that I build are for things to make me better and faster at programming. And so that makes me really excited. And so it's like, bros, we're about to have a multi-process switching and making one terminal window have several different standard in, standard outs, going back to it and trying to figure out how to make tmux work with that so I can have these long-lived sessions. Like for me, that's exciting. I have a different goal. My goal is not to make money. My goal is to create something that's going to make me have a better experience programming, something that's more integrated with projects, to have an AI experience that I like. What is my dream AI workflow, right? I like to make really great tools. That is exciting to me. And so I guess it really depends on what is the origin of this project. And it's good content. It's good content, but I think it's good content. It's not a project driven to make content. It's a project that I wanted, that I realized I can turn into content. And so how do I meet both those worlds the best, if that makes sense? Because that's like kind of what I have to do. And so it's exciting, right? It's the best of all worlds. And an LLM can be instructed to just figure out all that shit out. Often it will drop you precisely at that golden moment where shit almost works, and development means tweaking code and immediately seeing things work better. That dopamine hit is why I code. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think, dude, this is such an insightful statement right here. Right here. This is such an insightful statement, which is, seeing something go from red to green is why he codes, which may be different from other people's motivation. Yeah, for me, seeing something that's mostly broken and figuring out why it's broken and then fixing it, that is not where I get my dopamine from. Where I get my dopamine from is building something to the point of understanding it and then figuring out how to build it the best. I love that long form of going, this is what I think is the ideal way. Now, how well does this thing work? Right? Like, I love that. I love taking what I have built out for a spin and seeing how far I can take it out. I don't know why. I think that that's just so exciting to me, to see how many new problems can I encounter and how far I can take what I built. I don't know. It's just, that's for me, that's the dopamine part, is when a new facet rises up and what I've built stands the test of time or gets utterly dominated. And so, different, right? There's downsides. Sometimes gnarly stuff needs doing, but you don't want to do it. So you refactor unit tests, soothing yourself with the lie that you're doing real work. But an LLM can be told to go refactor all of your unit tests. An agent can occupy itself for hours putzing with your tests in a VM and come back later with a PR. If you listen to me, you'll know that. You'll feel worse yak shaving. Wait, you'll feel worse yak shaving? You'll end up doing real work. Okay, so this is kind of a hard one. I'm not really sure what he's attempting to say here. I don't think this was written by an LLM because this feels a bit kind of broken in how it was written. The thing is that whenever I have to refactor tests, I have to really think about the reason why they exist. What is the telos of these tests? And why are they broken, and what can I do differently? Right? Like, what makes them back into a working state? I really don't actually want an LLM to write this. I really want to think about why the tests were there to begin with. For me, this feels like I would be a bit worried about this because I don't want a bunch of useless tests. If a bunch of tests break because I refactor something, I want to think about what can I change to make it so it breaks less. How can I write tests in such a way that I'm still testing the same stuff, but is more resilient to like minor code changes? Like, what can I do to make something better, as opposed to like, what can I do to get them to go green? I don't want them green. I want them correct. And then I want them green, right? Or was something with the test flawed to begin with? Yeah, like there's a whole bunch of tests that you have to, like there's a bunch of questions you have to think about when you do testing. Testing is really important work. It's often neglected because it's boring. It can feel stupid, but for me, there's one thing that's really fun about testing, which is the challenge of setting up a good environment and a good pipeline to be able to take a project and have that apparatus, you know what I mean, set on, right? We inherited a service. Yeah. The real question is why refactor is about, hold on. The real question is why refactor? Is it about clean code or performance? Well, I would probably ignore this whole section. If a test is breaking because you refactored, the purpose should be, what's the point of the test? Right? What is the purpose of the test? Have I misjudged the purpose of a test? Like, sometimes I will intentionally test extremely small functions because the complication of that small function is worth it breaking when I have to change it. And I think everybody can generally agree with that idea, which is that, like if you had to do a very complicated algorithm for doing some sort of data structure search within your code, you're like, I'm just going to test this one specifically because it's easy to get the implementation right. TDD can work here, right? Even though I would never do that. All right, but let's see. But you have no idea what code is. Are you a vibe coding YouTuber? Can you not read code? If so, astute point. Otherwise, what the fuck is wrong with you? Hear me out here. Hundreds of lines of code, even like this chessy one that we've been writing. I've had to go through and kind of understand what's happening, as you can see, like right here, right? All that. Going through and understanding code can take time and effort. That is an ordeal in itself. And a lot of people will look at code in a brief sense and look at it in its isolated change and go, oh, yeah, I mean, the change itself looks reasonable, but you don't know the change in the larger ecosystem if that is actually reasonable or not. And I think that is always really, really difficult. And people, I mean, just understand the code, bro. I don't know. There's a lot to that it takes a lot of time. You are definitely discounting the rate of change and what it does to you. And especially if you've kind of bought the hypothesis that AI can just write the code super fast, part of you doesn't, you will let go of the deep understanding of code because you can just rewrite it fast, right? Like, I mean, I can definitely feel it myself. I definitely have this weird thing where it's like, as I vibe code something more, I'm more resistant to understand how it works because the project has gotten larger and larger. So understanding how it works means that I'm not spending 30 minutes thinking about what I'm writing and getting to know the problem. Instead, I'm spending 3-4 hours understanding what has been written and attempting to move within whatever architecture has been created. Like, there's a bigger resistance than just writing it myself, because both seem to be about the same amount of time. Like if you're familiar with it, they're both about the same amount of time. I just become more and more resistant to trying to read it. And it's a weird feeling. I'm trying to understand that. That's why I've been doing more vibe coding, because I just want to understand the process in which people are calling modern development, because it seems like everybody is just super stoked about it. And I just feel, I have weird feelings about things. Sometimes you have to engage the noggin rather rigorously for a spell to read the code to comprehension. Dude, it's true. Jeremy, that was a crazy sentence, but I do totally agree with you. You've been responsible for what you merged to main. You were 5 years ago. You are tomorrow, whether or not you're using an LLM. I do agree with that. If you build something with an LLM that people will depend on, read the code. In fact, you probably do more than that. You'll spend 5 to 10 minutes knocking it back into your own style. LLMs are showing signs of adapting to local idiom, but we're not there yet. That's good. I mean, I think that's good that it's showing signs of local idiom. I'm not really sure about that. People complain about LLM generated code being probabilistic. No, it isn't. It's code. It's not yak output. It's knowable. The LLM might be stochastic. Dude, this is a funny sentence. This is a very funny sentence to be like, people complain about it being stochastic. No, it's not, but it might be stochastic. Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. But the LLM, it doesn't matter. What matters is whether you can make sense of the result and whether your guardrails hold. Referring to different things likely. Yeah, it sounds like people are referring to different things. There's different things going on here. Reading other people's code is part of the job. If you can't metabolize the boring, repetitive code an LLM generates, skill issue. How are you handling the chaos human developers turn out on a deadline? True. I mean, I think there's some level of truth to that. Facts like machine. There's some level of truth to that, because I think people need to take more time digesting what is being produced in larger swaths. I always think about the distance formula, which is when you look at code generated by an LLM, especially when it comes to game stuff, you'll see the distance formula strewn throughout the code. It's more understandable how an LLM got to where it gets by looking at these little small changes because you asked it to make a small change. And a small change is like, okay, well, I need the distance. I'm going to calculate the distance. Like statistically speaking, the distance should look like this. Maybe sometimes it generates math.pow, but most of the time it does, dx times dx plus dy times dy, squirt it, right? And so but it spreads it throughout all the code. And that's the real problem. Because humans are unlikely to do that for the most part. But at the same time, I totally get this argument, which is humans do this. This is how it's done. I'm not sure. Maybe there's just no difference between what humans generate during a tight deadline versus what an LLM does, and that's okay. Squirt that DX, baby. Exactly. Yeah. For the last month or so, Gemini 2.5 has been my go-to. I've never really used much Gemini. I just haven't. Does Cursor even support the old Geminis? Oh yeah, it looks like I have Gemini Pro right here. Right? So maybe this could be maybe this will be a good one to try to play out. I've been trying some cloud sonnet. I've been trying some new ways to do stuff, like ask it to do a bunch of stuff. I'm really I'm trying to understand these things here. 2.5 is pretty good. Okay. I'm not, like I said, I'm not a hater. I'm trying to understand her. But hallucinations. If hallucinations matter to you, your programming language has let you down. Agents lint. They compile and run tests. If their LLM invents a new function signature, the agent sees the error. They feed it back to the LLM, which says, oh, right, I totally made that up, and then tries again. You'll only notice this happening if you watch the chain of thought log your agent generates. Don't. This is why I like Zed's agent mode. It begs you to tab away and let it work and pings you with a desktop notification when it's done. I'm sure there are still environments where hallucinations matter, but hallucination is the first thing developers bring up when someone suggests using LLM, despite it being more or less a solved problem. I don't know if hallucinations are a solved problem. This feels like a bit of a reach. Like I do agree that I fully do agree. In fact, look at right here. Right here. Is this the one that tries to do config? There we go. Actually, let me double check Chessboard API. The config method might not be the right approach either. Let me look for alternatives. Perfect. Based on the official Chessboard documentation, I can see that config method doesn't exist, right? So, I mean, it did it right here where it's like, okay, it hallucinated and then it fixed the hallucination. So, yeah, I mean, that is in some sense a better approach. I'm happy about that, but it took a while for this to actually come about. It took quite a few versions of me getting it to say, hey, do the right thing. Hey, do the right thing. So I do agree that hallucinations are definitely down due to the idea of an agent. The model itself is not a solved problem. Hallucinations still happen in all models. It's the agent that acts better because it has access to tests, lints, LSPs, things that give it additional information outside of the scope of the model itself. So, is it solved? No, it's not solved. But is it solved in a practical sense? Yes. Yeah. I could side with his argument. He's saying with agents. Yeah, exactly. TJ, you and I agree, right? But a solved problem is too strong. Yeah, it's a practically solved problem. Give the quicksort example. Yes, I know. This is like the classic problem. For those that don't know, this is like the classic problem that we talk about all the time. Here, I'll just do it really quickly for you guys so you understand. I'm going to jump in here, and how do you create files in this thing? Man, VS Code's so confusing. Okay, I don't want to create a file there. How do I create a top-level file? Do I have to okay, I'm going to select this one and then create a new file? There we go. I think I got a top-level file. Man, how do you guys create files in this? It's kind of confusing. All right, test.js. No. Let's rename that. Let's rename that to test.ts. Make it real strong, okay? So check this out. If I go like this, function quick sort, let's see. Okay, here, yeah, there you go. So you can see it already tabbing out to completion, right? I mean, this is pretty much the same stuff. You can see it kind of go, there we go. This is, in fact, not quick sort. I know it looks like quick sort, and it has all the things that are quick sort. It's just not quick sort. Where's the zoom in? Okay, well, I don't know why I can't zoom in for a second. I thought the zoom in was under view. Because when I press Control Shift plus, Control plus, it's not going. I know I'm pressing Control plus. I'm literally pressing Control plus right now. Plus. Control plus. Okay, so I don't know what's going on. Anyways, it looks just like quicksort. In fact, it even uses a pivot, right? It's grabbing the middle element. Interesting choice, middle element. It then does this, it then does this, it then does this, okay? Why is this not quicksort? Quicksort is an in-memory sort. This is not an in-memory sort. This creates n log n. This creates 2 n log n memory, right? Like that's a lot. There's like a, it is a lot. And then actually creates more than 2 n log n memory. It creates what, 4 n log n memories? Because look at how funny this is. Do you see this? This creates a copy of an array. This copies the copy of the array that is created. It like triple copies all the way down. It's not quicksort. It's just it mimics quicksort, right? So so is that a hallucination? Do I like Cursor? Yeah, I've had a great time using Cursor. I think Cursor is a great. I mean, I think it's a great product. Oh my gosh, there's a moth. Hiya! I think Cursor's a great product. I think they've done amazing things when it comes to like the AI agent integration and all that. I think they've done a great job. I just hate VS Code. Honestly, I think Cursor's biggest weakness is that they have VS Code as their platform. But that's, again, like I get it. I'm not the audience they're attempting. So I get it. I'm not going to fight it. They're correct. What else to use though? I mean, I'm a NeoVim boy, right? Biggest weakness for Prime equals on. What does TJ have to say? He's laughing at me. Biggest weakness for Prime. Primary win for everyone else. TJ, it's the exact same weakness for you too, though. Okay? TJ's laughing, but he's over there like, yeah, I also find it inundating and all that kind of stuff. Or not inundating, overwhelming and all those kind of things. TJ over there making fun of me. Except I don't look like I've never seen a computer when I use it. Truing. But the shitty, but the code is shitty, like that of a junior developer. I do not think LLMs produced a junior level code. I honestly think that's a big insult to juniors. Like, I do not think of my juniors as so stupid. It is pretty ridiculous to think that juniors would be that bad. I just do not believe it. I think that that's completely wrong. It's a completely wrong way to look at it, and I think it's demeaning towards juniors. And I mean that, like, I'm not actually trying to meme at this point. This is me actually having a genuine opinion about this. I think that this is I've always hated this statement because it's just so not true. Does an intern cost $20 a month? Because that's what Cursor.ai costs. Part of being a senior developer is making less able coders productive. Do they fleshly or be they freshly or algebraic? I was like, what the hell does this mean? Depends on the junior. I still don't even think it's just an analogy. Yeah, but it's a crappy analogy. Like, I get, and first off, it's not an analogy. It's a metaphor. And second, okay, an analogy is X is like Y, or X is like Y, like Z is like, right? So it's not even a metaphor, or it's not even an analogy. Okay, it's a metaphor. What's the metaphor? Facebook. Actually, it's a simile. Shit, I knew it was gonna get hit on that one. I could never remember if it's a simile or a metaphor, dude. I knew I was gonna get hit. I just knew it's not a analogy. Okay, an analogy is 2 similes. Part of being a senior is making less able coders productive, be they fleshly or algebraic. Using agents well is both a skill and an engineering project all its own, of prompts, indices, and especially tooling. LLMs only produce shitty code if you let them. Nice. I'd say LLMs only produce shitty code. It's your job to make them less shitty. So, okay, we agree, sort of. Maybe. But I'm okay with that. Not all code has to be pretty. I'm also on that team, which is not all code is like, it has to be beautiful. I think there's plenty of a giant world of shitty code's okay. Maybe the current confusion about who's doing the work. Today, LLMs do a lot of typing, Googling, test cases, and edit, compile, test, debug cycles. I actually like to do some of the testing myself because I'm not quite convinced that it can do some of the testing, especially when it comes to complex UI interactions. I'm not convinced that LLMs have a good idea of how to test that. It's always like, let me test up. Hey, let me start up the server and I'll find out if this UI works. And I'm like, brother, slow it down now. You know what? How about you just make the change? I'm going to go figure out what you've done, why you did it, and if it's actually any good. Anyways, but even the most Claude poisoned, what does that even mean? Serious developer in the world still own a curation, judgment, guidance, and direction. Isn't that where they shine for most cases? I'm not sure if they shine in most cases there, right? Also, let's stop kidding ourselves about how good our human first cuts really are. Sure. Let's see. But it's bad. But it's bad at Rust. Well, I mean, is there any really good Rust developer? Is it? I thought Rust is always the true Scotsman of programming. Haven't heard of. See, the problem is, but I still love it. Anyways, let's see. It's hard to get good tool chain for brainfuck too. Life's tough in the aluminium side business. A lot of LLM skepticism probably isn't really about LLMs. It's projection. People say LLMs can't code when they really mean LLMs can't write Rust. Fair enough, but people select language. But people select languages is part based on how well the LLMs work with them. So Rust people should get on that. Let's just face it. If you really want an LLM to work well, you'd choose JavaScript. That's how you make a good LLM project. Or PHP. PHP could probably do it, right? Right. That's fine. I think that's fine. I thought it was Python. I'm not too sure about Python. I'm pretty sure you want to use JavaScript. All this the same. I write some Rust. I like it fine. I like it fine too. If LLMs and Rust aren't working for you, I feel you. But if that's your whole thing, we're not having the same argument. Also true. Like I'm not trying to get the LLMs to be the greatest Zig writer. You don't have to be. But the craft. Do you like Japanese woodworking? All hand tools and shashimana joinery? Me too. Do it on your own time. Okay, I think there's a time for craft. It depends on the type of. It depends on the scope of the problem. I always find this. I find the rigorous pursuit of completion, as opposed to building something that can stand a bit longer term and doesn't have as much code replacement, is actually a good thing in the long run. Like it's definitely not as good in the short run, but it's definitely a good thing in the long run. And so I'm not quite. I think that this argument is usually the worst one. I have a basic wood shop in my basement. I could get a lot of satisfaction from building a table. And if the table is a workbench or a grill table, sure, I'll build it. But if I need like a table for people to sit at in my office, I'll buy a fucking table. Okay. To be fair, the table I'm on right here, this is a handcrafted bad boy. Okay. Professional software developers are in the business of solving practical problems for people with code. We are not, in our daily jobs, artisans. Steve Jobs was wrong. We do not need to carve the unforeseen feat in the sculpture. Nobody cares if the logic board traces are pleasantly routed. If anything we build endures, it won't be because the code base was beautiful. Okay, but I'm going to make the inverse argument. I also think that there's something really good for humans to pursue excellence. I think that we will generally build better things if excellence is our first and foremost first step. So there is definitely something there. Now, I'm not saying it has to always be there, but there is definitely something about being concerned with what you build and attempting to be the best you can possibly build that is also useful. So you're starting a Haskell arc? No, I want to build something, TJ. That's the difference. I don't want to write. I'm not a good writer, so I'm not good at white papers, and I've never used LaTeX, so I can't really start with Haskell yet. You know what I mean? So there is something there. It's the same thing about like just today's modern world. How many people have bought a recent flip job in America, a house, right? Someone that remodeled a house, and what you really find out is that they simply take lipstick, slap it on a pig, ignore all the problems, and then you're stuck with all the issues from it. There's definitely a lack of craftsmanship. They say that houses were best bought are houses from like the 40s through the 60s. Because it's like at the change in how fast we can produce things, where people also were concerned about the quality. And so there's like this like high quality goodness mixed into a house that you also can do stuff with. So there's like there's like this weirdness to it, whereas like new modern houses tend to be really horrible. Like the house I bought, it was a builder's house, which now I'm partially convinced they just do it for money laundering, but there was no king post in the center of the house. My house was actually cracking, and the floor plans had king posts. One part of my house was held up by a 6-inch pylon of cement. Like my house in the next couple years would have fell apart if we wouldn't have caught this. It was a 1/4 inch off the foundation. There's just like no care. It's just prioritizing speed as opposed to quality. And it's just like one of these things like, you know, there is something to it that is frustrating and annoying. And so speed should not be the only purpose, right? I'm glad I have an old house, 120 years old. Yeah, there's probably a lot of goodness to it. No installation in those old houses, true. But that's a fixable problem, right? Bones can be good. And so there is definitely something there. that there's an art of making something well that's good, but not all things have to be made well. And so I can understand that there's some sort of dichotomy here. Not everything has to be artisan handcrafted. Your Twitch login for your little website, your Gmail login, it's just the same crap over and over again. Throw it in a file, never look at it again, and have the same OAuth thing go on. Whatever, right? Besides, that's not really what happens. If you're taking time carefully golfing functions down into graceful, fluent, minimal function expressions, alarm bells should ring. You're yak shaving. The real work has depleted your focus. You're not building. You're self-soothing. Well, yeah, I mean, I would say that golfing down functions is a dangerous activity to begin with, even if you do think you're being a craftsman. Golfing down functions and trying to do all that stuff means that you're likely building just a brittle system. I don't think this is a good argument either way. Which, wait for it, is something LLMs are good for. They devour, schlep, and clear the path for important stuff, where your judgment and values really matter. Okay. But then I would make the counter argument, which is that humans often default to easy. So even though you're saying all these wonderful words and we're all agreeing that it's good to be responsible for the things you put in master and all that kind of stuff, blah, 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 I'm on your team, but humans inherently choose easy over hard almost always. And so what happens? We're gonna use this thing for not just the stuff that's boring boilerplate. We're gonna use it for all things. It's just gonna be used for all things. And software is just going to have the inevitable march towards enshittification. But the mediocrity. As a mid-late career coder, I've come to appreciate mediocrity. You should be so lucky as to have it flowing almost effortlessly from the tap. Right? Let's see. We all write mediocre code. True. This is true. You can see this is experience talking. Mediocre code, often fine. Is a mediocre code. Often fine. Not all code is equally important. Some code should be mediocre. Maximum effort on a random unit test, you're doing something wrong. Your team lead should correct you. Maybe there shouldn't be random unit tests. Boom. Developers all love to preen about code. They worry LLMs lower the ceiling for quality. Maybe, but they also raise the floor. Maybe? Gemini's floor is higher than my own. My code looks nice, but it's not as thorough. LLM code is repetitive, but mine includes dumb contortions where I got too clever trying to dry things up. Don't dry things. Boom. But no, I agree with this. I mean, I think this argument generally has some level of goodness to it, which is I do think that there is an overstatement of care for code. You don't need to care about every line of code. Not every line of code has to be great. You know, I'm fine having a really dumb startup where it's just like, here's a bunch of crap I have to specify. Boom, boom, boom. Let's just get it done with. And LLMs aren't mediocre on every axis. They almost certainly have a bigger bag of algorithm tricks than you do. Radix trees, topological sorts, graph reductions, and LDPC codes. Well, wait a second. Hold on. Time out. TO. I was reliably told that these type of things mean nothing to your day-to-day jobs. I thought it didn't matter. I thought lead code interviews suck. So why do we even care about them? Humans romanticize rsync. Wrote a paper about it. To an LLM, it might not be that much more interesting than a squeal join. But I'm getting ahead of myself. It doesn't matter. If truly mediocre code is all we have ever get from LLMs, that's still huge. And it's much less mediocre code than humans have to write. I agree with that. I'm on this team. I am on this team right here that there is something very nice about this being able to be produced. Again, I always go back to OAuth because it's like my least favorite activity on any project is login. Love it. Very happy. So there you go. It's worth my $20, $40, whatever dollars a month, right? That's very exciting. I think that is a good thing. And that is your opinion, Prime. What is that even? What? Is that really an opinion? That I don't have to write OAuth login again? I think everybody should be high-fiving that one. What? I think he's conflating unimportant with mediocre. Yeah, potentially. And that is your opinion, Prime. Agreed. But it will never be AGI. I don't give a shit. Smart practitioners get wound up by the AI VC hype cycle. I can't blame them. But it's not an argument. Things either work or they don't, no matter what Jensen Huang has to say about it. I think the AGI stuff, you just got to quit. You just got to quit worrying about. Jensen, who are you talking about? Yes, this is the CEO of NVIDIA. Right? I actually like this. I like this argument the best, which is I don't really care if they call it AGI or not. It just matters how nice it's going to be. But they took our jibs. So does open source. We used to pay good money for a database. I mean, it's a pretty good argument right there. Is he serious? I think he is serious. It's true, though, right? I don't think it's a good argument at all. Why isn't it a good argument? There's plenty of things that open source has taken people's jobs for. You don't left pad took down the internet because people quit writing left pad, which is stupid, but nonetheless, people have done that. Because we still have to manage the database and configurations. Yeah, managing a database is orders of magnitude easier than writing a database, right? You used to just have to buy them. Agreed to some extent. Am I incorrect that writing a database is extremely hard? Migrations can be very painful. True, migrations can be very painful. How hard can storing text really be? Brothers, we found somebody that's about to write a new database. We found him. This, my friends, is somebody that's getting ready to write their own database. Oh God, scroll. No, I will not scroll. This is too funny. This is like my favorite line in the universe. They don't know. They don't know. I know. Anyways, it's very, very funny. Genius. No, it's good though. Hey, but I love that mentality, right? I mean, this is the reason I've never had trouble writing a database. So you've never written a database? Got him. It's so fun. Yeah. No, that's I'm not trying to be mean about it. I'm saying that that's awesome. Okay. Anyways, I understand his argument, meaning that we don't have to write as many things as we used to have to write because it's now available via open source. In some sense, our job has become massively easier because open source allows a bunch of stuff to be used, right? I get to use this sweet text editor. I don't have to buy this text editor from some company. I get to edit my text editor. I get to be able to do what I want with my text editor if I want it to be. Like, this is an amazing, open source is an amazing thing, okay? And so I think we can all agree that this is fantastic. Right, so I'm trying to give the guy the W where he deserves to give the W, and I think this is a great W. We're a field premised on automating other people's jobs away. Productivity gains, says The Economist. You get what that means, right? Fewer people doing the same stuff. Talked to a travel agent lately, or a floor broker, or a record store clerk, or a darkroom tech? True. I mean, he is absolutely right. There's been a lot of jobs that have gone by the wayside, right? You don't have to talk to travel agents anymore. They generally floor brokers still exist. They do still exist, but it's not the same. Did you ever watch the stock market channel? What is it? MSNBC or not MSNBC? Whatever it's called. I forget what the classic stock market channel in America. Did you ever watch it in the 90s? I mean, it was crazy on the floor. C-SPAN's the government one. CNBC. Oh, okay, CNBC. Now, if you watch it, it's pretty tame on the floor, right? Like, there's not a lot of people left on the floor. It's not the same. I don't know. I'm on Jay Blow's team. Most software is absolutely garbaggio. I do agree with that. I mean, I do think we've entered a world that there is a lot of garbage software. Can we all minimally agree to that? The fact that I can not open up most things, like everything I open up, the fact that, look at this, I'm using 13 gigabytes and look at how many tabs I have open. I do agree. I do find things. I do find the process that we're at. I do find this annoying that I'm using 10 gigabytes of memory to have open 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 tabs. That means over 500 megabytes of memory being used per tab, plus extensions. I have better TTV and dark readers. Zen. Well, I mean, it's just Firefox, right? Have you seen Robert Downey Jr.'s visiting Wall Street video? No, I haven't. Something's wrong. Zen or Chromium doesn't do that to you. I don't see how it doesn't do that to you. That's 9 gigabytes. Got him. Same with Chrome too. Yeah, I mean, I get the same thing with Chrome. I get the same thing on anything. This is just a Firefox variant, but the same thing happens with Chrome, right? Zen absolutely does that to me. Chrome absolutely does that to me. I'm not even complaining about, I'm just saying modern software has changed a lot. We've created a world in which we need the world's most complex interpretation and compiling of a language to be able to make things run at somewhat acceptable speed. And we trade memory for speed because of how poorly everything runs, right? We're a field, let's see, hold on. When this argument comes up, libertarian-leaning VCs start the chant. Lamp lighters, creative destruction, new kinds of work. Maybe, but I'm not hypnotized. I have no fucking clue whether we're going to be better off after LLMs. Things could get a lot worse for us. True. Yeah. I mean, at least this guy has a realistic picture, which is, I don't know what is the ultimate outcome in 20 years. What is the ultimate outcome in 20 years as we integrate everything into this whole AI train? Are we just going to have a crappy, weird world in which it's very difficult? And you have to constantly go to all these places, and it's just like that mediocre, like that kind of annoying nature to it. You know, you might miss talking with humans. I mean, the only thing I really see about LLMs that is becoming a big problem is that we're getting further and further, we're isolating ourselves more and more. Warhammer future. It's the Warhammer future, right? We talk less and less, and interactions between humans are going down and down. You know, they say that there's like this recent study that showed that Zoomers drink a significant less amount of alcohol than millennials, Generation X, Generation before X, the baby boomers and all that. And so there's this thing that people are hypothesizing. They're like, oh, well, that means Zoomers are just more health conscious. And it's just like, well, actually, that's not what happens because when you look at it. Because no money, that's not it. What they're saying is that they call it the loner and stoner, right? They're significantly less social, and alcohol is a social lubricant. Generally, pot is not considered a social lubricant for a good portion of people. There are some people that say, hey, when I smoke pot, I become more sociable. But that is like generally not the thing a lot of people talk about when they smoke as a pot, is becoming more and more social, right? Alcohol, I said generally. I do notice that I said the thing. They replace. Stoned is not considered the what's it called, the social the social lubricant. I think anyone who's drinking a couple beers and smoked a joint obviously knows the difference between the two. They are very, very different experiences, right? But people are, but generally speaking, Zoomers are more and more isolated than they've ever been. I don't know why people are arguing this. And they're like the most isolated generation we have. And I see LLMs being something that just isolates people more, which is kind of terrifying. I think that generally speaking, being loners aren't good. And that, to me, that's more of a, to me, that's actually the more scary things. So there you go. 100%. We would ditch school to hang out and smoke weed. It was absolutely social. No, you were young. There's a huge difference. Like, I understand that you ditched school to smoke weed, but you were partaking, the social lubricant there was rebellion. It wasn't pot. There's such a funny difference that happens in a kid. Like, I also was young. I also skipped school. I also went and smoked pot. But taking a long, thorough look at myself, I realized that it was me desiring rebellion more than anything else. And you know what? I used to love drinking to the maximum. And then I turned 21 and I realized my love of drinking was actually a love of rebellion. And I actually was not nearly as infatuated with drinking after I turned 21. And I do not think it was I realized it wasn't about drinking. It was about the fact I was getting away with something. Yeah, I'm not, but by the way, I'm not saying that you don't have a possibility that pot is your social lubricant. That's why I said some people actually experience a social lubrication of smoking pot. I actually had a good friend that, you know how he got through Calc 4, or Calc 3, which is a multivariate calculus that's how our school had it. Calc 3 was multivariate. Calc 4 was differential. Calc 3, what he did was he would get really high and then do that because he said that he could just crush math homework by getting really high. That was his jam. That's an unusual experience for most people. Most people don't say, hey, for me to be able to study multivariate calculus, I need to get super high first. Right? Like, that's an unusual experience. I get that people have different experiences with things. That's just an excuse. It was a weird thing. It just worked. That's just the way he did it. And he was good at it. He got an A+. He was fantastic at it. Now, I can't say that whether or not, the best part is that he later on became, I wouldn't call him a pastor, but he later went on to do a bunch of missionary thing and changed his life around completely. But during the time that was in there, that's what he would do. Very, very funny life story. But I just loved how, how much different his experience was comparatively to me, right? Because my experience was, if I smoked pot, I could not do calculus. I could not do any of those things. Okay, we got on a huge tangent. right? I couldn't remember my name when I was high. We've all been accidentally that high before. LLMs really might displace software developers. That's not a high horse we get to ride. Our jobs are just as much in tech's line of fire as everybody else's have been for the last 3 decades. We're not East Coast dock workers. We won't stop progress on our own. There must be some sort of... There's something I'm not going to keep on going, but but the plagiarism. I actually do agree with this one. I think plagiarism is actually really bad. I think that what we have done to get the data has been a bad thing. And I understand that the outcome, the ends, are some nice things that we get to enjoy and potentially things that greatly change how we program and all that. But I do think that it is actually a genuine bad. And I am not a causalist. Is that what they call it? Someone who justifies the means by the outcome. I am not someone that says you have to crack a few eggs to make an omelet. Like, that is not... I do not believe in that type of morality. Artificial intelligence is profoundly and probably unfairly threatening to visual artists in ways that might be hard to appreciate if you don't work in the arts. We imagine artists spending their working hours pushing the limits of expression, but the median artist isn't producing gallery pieces. They produce on brief, turning out competent illustrations and compositions for magazine covers, museum displays, motion graphics, and game assets. LLMs easily, alarmingly, clear industry quality bars. Gallingly, one of the things they're best at is churning out just good enough facsimiles of human creative work. I have family in visual arts. I can't talk about the LLM. I can't talk to them about LLMs. I don't blame them. They're probably not wrong. Yeah, I could imagine myself being pretty upset about that. I get it. That's why I am on team. Hey, I think there is something really broken about LLMs and what they've been doing. What's going on? Did my internet just die? Oh, YouTube just crashed. Okay, interesting. I work in VFX. We're cooked. Oh, dang, really? It's that bad? The song was a banger? Well, the song's gone. Sorry. Meanwhile, software developers spot code fragments seemingly lifted from public repositories on GitHub and lose their shit. What about the licensing? If you are a lawyer, I defer. But if you're a software developer playing this card, cut me a little slack as I asked you to shove this concern up your ass. Why is that a concern? Like that, dude, you should be very concerned about that. If you are taking code from something in which people can objectively say comes from certain licenses that force you to open source the code you're working on, that can have major impacts on the thing you're building. This is actually a real problem. This is not like a fake problem. This is not like, hey, to create the least straw man create the most straw man version of this argument, which is, don't worry if it's GPL, just take it and lie. Like, that's not good. The steel man to this is that do you really care? You don't actually really care. You're just programming and you don't think about it every single time that LLMs generate you code. You don't think, oh, is this GPL? Am I taking from that? But honestly, I think that this is I think it's actually a real problem. And this is, I would be shocked. The only reason why, okay, sorry, my thoughts are all over the place. The only reason why we're not having a reckoning for all the code that was taken outside of licenses that should allow it is because there is a strategic world advantage against going against China and America. That's my only personal opinion as to why this is happening. Because I would imagine a mass proliferation of stealing GPL code and other things against licenses, an arms race effectively, is that lawyers would be jumping on that. And so that's like my only argument to myself why everything is just okay. I can't, because why, like, how is this not turned into massive class action lawsuits over and over again? Suspended all copyright law to win a fake race. I mean, that's how it feels to me. Like, I don't quite understand it. I mean, EU is going to be awesome. EU is going to come in and be like, you can't do that, and then no one's going to generate LLM stuff in the EU. The EU will be thrown into the quote-unquote dark ages. Better Business Bureau just put a law that states can't regulate AI for 10 years. My guess is because of the China-U.S. arms race. Yeah, that's how I look at it. No profession has demonstrated more contempt for intellectual property. I don't feel like I have contempt for intellectual property. I mean, I think there is value to some level of intellectual property. I think that there's some anti-consumer laws that exist when it comes to intellectual property, but generally speaking, I think that intellectual property is fine. Like, I think it's good that Apple has their own proprietary stuff, even though I don't use Apple and I refuse to use an iPhone and or a Mac as much as I can. I think it's also perfectly fine that they have that. I think it's silly that EU's making them open up AirDrop. It's theirs. I don't get it. Why would I argue with that? I don't want, I'm not there. I think it's perfectly fine for people to have their own intellectual property. There's plenty of good reasons for it, and there's plenty of bad reasons. I think that Nintendo has largely shown us a lot of bad reasons why intellectual property can suck. They're trying to sue Pal World over the throwing of a ball. Like, that seems stupid. That seems like the Nintendo and the people who are suing deserve to be slapped around. Disney. Well, I mean, it's harder for me to agree with the Disney one. Like, if you take Mickey Mouse, it's hard for me to say that, hey, no, actually, that is the company who's developed Mickey Mouse. Like, if I were to develop Iron Man, I would expect that I'm the only one. If that's what you mean by Disney, I might be unfamiliar with what you're saying, but in my head, intellectual property is dumb. No, it's not. Dude, intellectual property is not dumb. If you were to create a character and you write a novel, and let's call it Iron Man, and then anyone can take it and just become like, it's now my Iron Man. That's insane, right? Like, of course, you've created and worked and created this large thing that you spent whatever amount of time doing. I don't care how long or little you did it. You still created a thing, right? Like, should anybody just be able to take a Wheel of Time, Lord of the Rings, and be able to do whatever they want to do with it? No, I don't think that is good, right? There is good versions of intellectual property. I think J.R. Tolkien Foundation deserves whatever access they have to Lord of the Rings. It's not ours to take, right? Like, 10 years should be good, though. Why should 10 years be good? What makes 10 years good and 20 year bad? Like, I'm on team that there's bad stuff. Also rage bait. Yeah, I'm on team that there's bad versions of intellectual property, and I think people use it as a way to, like, stymie creativity and progress in things that need to have progress, or be not even progress. Progress is probably the wrong term. It stymies creativity and cool new looks onto something. Like, I agree, there's a lot of crap, especially in the gaming industry with Nintendo, but it's also pretty ridiculous. Like, yeah, Oracle and JavaScript. That's a great example. I think it's insane that Oracle owns the right to JavaScript, and they do nothing with JavaScript. It should just be public domain. Nobody calls it ECMAScript unless if you're literally going, hey, we're now in a legal situation, so I need to call it ECMAScript in this one case because now we're in the legal world, right? Like, it's kind of insane that we have that. ECMAD's nuts. Exactly. I don't know. I actually think that this is an excellent argument, and I do think that there should be something done about this, because I think Stack Overflow is a crap website. But the reality is LLMs also gobbled up a lot of Stack Overflow's interactions. And so I think that is nuts. 20 years in software is too long. Why? What is wrong with that? Like, how do you determine these things, Daily Push? Like, where do you come up with your ideas? I don't know, right? I can't just say, hey, you only deserve 10 years. Yeah, people who say intellectual property is dumb have never built anything and they don't have financial responsibility. Typically, the life of an author, 70 years is quite excessive. I don't know. I have a hard time saying if something's excessive or not, right? Like, I have a hard time with that. I don't know. I think it probably depends more on the thing than it does anything else, right? The Medium dev thinks Star Wars and Daft Punk are a public commons. No, they don't. Does anybody think Daft Punk and Star Wars are public commons? Does anybody think that I can just make my own my own Darth Vader video game? Bottom 25%? You think so? I do not think so. Back when we had Flash, yeah, I mean, Flash was funny. Those are good times. Those are good times. Tupac Shakur did take the Cheetos. For those that have any E-Bombs World experience. The great cultural project of developers has been opposing any protection that might inconvenience a monetizable media sharing site. When they fail at policy, they route around it with coercion. They stand up global-scale piracy networks and sneer at anybody why so much as tries. Or who so much, why? I said why. Who so much, wow, I really thought that said why. Who so much tries as to preserve a new release window for a TV show. Call any of this out if you want to watch my TED Talk about how hard it is to stream The Expanse on LibreWolf. Yeah, we get it. You don't believe in IPR. Then shut the fuck up about IPR. Reap the whirlwind. I don't know what IPR is. I don't think piracy is good. Like, I understand you're not stealing a physical product, which prevents somebody else from getting it. Oh, IP rights? Okay. Okay, IPR. Okay. I thought it was some other thing that I'm missing. Like, I agree that piracy is not physically stealing a product like a car. Because if you steal one car, that car cannot be cannot be purchased by someone else. I get that. Totally on that team. There's a difference between piracy and literally stealing something physical. But at the end of the day, you're still taking something that isn't yours, whether or not it affects somebody else in a direct manner, like stealing a car would. I'd download a car, of course. It sounds amazing to download a car, right? What was this article about again? I know it's still theft in some level. I love piracy. If it were not for piracy, I would not have opportunities I have today. I have a hard time to say I love piracy. I don't know what you mean by I love piracy. Because there's a lot of versions of piracy. Let me give you a quick example. You download the Friends show. People like Friends. I never liked Friends. I don't know. But people do download it, right? They pirate it. That, I can't imagine that's going to make you a better programmer. That's just taking something that's not yours. Yeah, I also don't like Friends. Yeah, I'm not, this is not about me saying you wouldn't download a binary, would you? Why? Why what? You don't like Friends? Yeah, I don't like Friends. Yeah. A positive case redux. Okay, I don't know what that is. Seinfeld better. When I started writing a couple days ago, I wrote a section to level set to the state of the art of LLM assisted programming. A bluefish fillet has a longer shelf life than an LLM take. In the time it took you to read this, everything changed. Kids today don't just use agents; they use asynchronous agents. What does that even mean? By the way, aren't we using the term asynchronous incorrectly? Doesn't asynchronous mean to align times? They wake up, free associate 13 different things for their LLMs to work on, make coffee, fill out a TPS report, drive to the Mars Cheese Castle, and then check their notifications. They've got 13 PRs to review. 3 get tossed and reprompted, 5 of them get the same feedback a junior dev gets, and 5 get merged. I am sipping rocket fuel right now, a friend tells me. The folks on my team who aren't embracing AI, yeah, it's like they're standing still. He's not bullshitting me. He doesn't work in SFBA. He's got no reason to lie. Yeah, I mean, I guess if change is your only metric, then sure, you're right. Absolutely right. I mean, really, it's true. Also, there's definitely a side thing to all this, which is people already had a problem with deadlines. You know what I mean? We already had a problem with deadlines and all that stuff. Imagine how much more fun deadlines are going to get now. You know what I mean? Imagine how much better life's going to get, right? Where it's going to be like, hey, guess what? We're going to need you to deliver these 17 features by next week, right? Everybody delivers 17 features by next week. What do you think is going to happen to all forms of quality? That is the LLM future. There's plenty of things that I can't trust LLMs with. No LLM has any access to prod here, but I've been the first responder on an incident and fed 4.0, not 04 mini, 4.0 log transcripts and watched in seconds spot LVM and metadata corruption issues on a host we've been complaining about for months. Am I better than an LLM agent at interrogating open search logs and honeycomb traces? No, I am not. To the consternation of many of my friends, I'm not a radical or a futurist. I'm a statist. I believe in haphazard perseverance of complex systems of institutions or reversions to the mean. I write Go and Python code. I'm not a Kool-Aid drinker, but something real is happening. My smartest friends are blowing it off. Maybe I persuade you, but I don't. But we need to be done making space for bad arguments. Sure and real. But a lot of these things, again, I always come up with I hear all the things you're saying, but speed and the slow abstraction away from code is also going to have a massive amount of security stuff. There is just security issues are going to be such a real deal over the next 10 years. Slop is going to be such a real deal over the next 10 years. And I also am still completely bought into plagiarism is actually a real argument. And we're only not experiencing plagiarism because of some, I don't know, a pseudo arms race. I'm not really sure. But I'm tired of hearing about it. Let's see. And here I rejoin your company. I read Simon Wilson, and that's all I really need. But all day, every day, a sizable chunk of the front page of Hacker News is allocated to LLMs. Incremental model updates, startups doing things with LLMs, LLM tutorials, screeds against LLMs. It's annoying. But AI is also incredibly, a word I would use advisedly, important. It's getting the same kind of attention that smartphones got in 2008 and not as much as the internet got. That seems about right. That seems like an odd statement right there. I think it's going to get clearer over the next year. The cool kids' haughtiness about stochastic parrots and vibe coding can survive much more contact with reality. I'm snarking about these people, but I meant what I said. They're smarter than me, and when they get over this affection, they're going to make coding agents profoundly more effective than they are today. Yeah, I mean, I think there's still a lot. These are all pro arguments, and I can agree with a lot of the arguments that he's making, right? Like, again, I don't like writing OAuth. Okay, this is fantastic. Hallucinations. Well, agents really do greatly reduce the amount of hallucinations. I'm on the team. It's not a solved problem, but it's definitely better. Shitty code like a junior. Never really bought that one, but it's bad at some specific things. Sure, that's just how LLMs work. If there's not enough data, totally on that team. I get it. I would not judge an LLM based on some bespoke language to see how good it is, right? Ginger Bill, if you're still here, I would not judge it on its quality with Odin. Right? Like, I just wouldn't. It'd be a stupid way to do that. And so I'm okay with that. But the craft, I do think that there is something about this that is kind of breaking from humans. We're more and more worried about just getting things done as opposed to the goodness in which we produce things. I know there is definitely some sort of middle ground, which you can't always produce things of high quality, but there also used to be something attached to the idea that what you produce needs to be good because it is really, really lovely. Mediocrity, I agree that there's a lot of code that just needs to be mediocre, and that's okay. It'll never be AGI. I'm on this team. I don't give a shit. I think those arguments have been largely dumb anyways, and I just don't listen to Sam or all these people being like, super intelligence is on the horizon. They've been on the horizon forever, and it's going to continue to be on the horizon. There's going to be some reason why they're going to be like, well, reasoning doesn't blah, blah, blah. I don't care. But they've taken our jobs. I mean, I actually partly agree with some of these statements in here that programming has largely been the forward progress, if you call it progress, the forwardness, the change of taking and removing jobs and making them faster. And there's some good things about that, right? Efficiency is nice. The fact that I don't have to talk to somebody to book a travel is actually kind of fantastic. I think we can all agree that kayak is a nice thing. Plagiarism, real deal. I think he completely undersells this. Positive case for Redux. Again, I think that this kind of stuff right here, you yourself can't handle all these things in your head, and I think that you're going to largely introduce a whole bunch of enshittification, and at the end of the day, I think that we're going to have wild security problems and less quality software here in the next few years. All right? And I'm also tired of hearing about it. Boom. But I continue to use it. I'm trying to understand. I'm trying my best. To enjoy this experience and trying to get the good stuff. You know what I mean? Let me erase this file we just created. Move to trash. There we go. All right, anyways, there are brain chips out there. That'd be kind of neat. Anyways, overall, I think he makes a lot of good arguments, makes a lot of dumb arguments. This is a pretty good article, you know? I think there's a lot of things that people need to say, and even me, I'm trying to get over the fact that, I don't need to artisanally handcraft a log statement. I can start the slog dot, and it's going to be like, hey, you probably just want to slog out these variables. I got them for you. And it's like, yeah, thanks, LLM. I appreciate that. Right? I don't need to artisanally handcraft that. This makes me feel good on the inside. So I'm here. I'm in it. I'm on this team.